Hey there and welcome back to another Miraculous Ladybug Retrospective Season 1 review. And today we're going to be talking about the episode Evillustrator. And this is actually the first episode I ever saw. One day I was just sitting down, flicking through the channels, when I stumbled across this wacky show with a dude in a leather cat outfit and a girl in spotted spandex, and I thought, surely this can't be popular. Oh, and how wrong I was. I was indeed very, very wrong. And here we are, all these years later, finally given this thing the review it deserves. And so, with all that being said, let's jump into the episode. And we start off the episode at school, where Marinette is running through the halls, being chased by Stormy Weather, before running into Lady Wi-Fi, who pauses her, before Stormy Weather freezes her. And first up, isn't this the second episode in the production order? According to the wiki it is, at least. What the hell's Lady Wi-Fi doing here? Spoilers much? You haven't been introduced yet, go home! Anyway, at this point, Super Nathan comes in and saves the day, and Marinette jumps into his arms and it's all very romantic. Until Ms. Mendeleev breaks Nathaniel out of his daydream where he's been making a comic of himself as a superhero, romancing one of his classmates. Now, as a baseline, that's pretty cringe. Making a comic of yourself as a hero with somebody in your class as your damsel in distress. Ooh. But then drawing it in class, putting yourself at risk of people seeing it, and then getting caught by the teacher who yells at you in front of everybody and tells you loudly and publicly that you're failing the class. And then, as you get sent to the principal's office, you trip over somebody's bag and they pick up the book and they share the contents with the entire class, including the girl in the drawings, as your teacher literally lifts you up by the scruff of your neck because you are that scrawny. F in the chat for Nathaniel. I mean, this is so deeply cringe that Gabe actually had no choice but to instantly akumatize him. I mean, it takes a minute of showtime, and this happens. This is a nightmare scenario. How do you come back from this? I mean, if this was real life, years later, full on years later, people would still be laughing about Nathaniel's romantic comic starring Marinette. Every couple of years, someone would say, remember when this happened? Ugh, yuck. Meanwhile, in class, the kids are sorted into their group project groups. And man, would you look at that. Marinette gets sorted into the same group as Chloe and Sabrina. Ooh, F in the chat for Marinette as well. And this feels too real. How often in group projects do you seem to get sorted into the very group, the one specific group that you don't want to be in, with the people who are either lazy and won't work, or are weirdly aggressive about working hard, or just full-on hate you? I'm having flashbacks. Also, the locker room scene feels too real as well. One person does all the work, and the other person presents it. Although honestly, back in my day, like I'm some old man, back in my day, but anyway, back in my day, it was considered the optimum position to do all the reading and all the writing. Nobody ever wants to be the presenter, because then they have to answer the questions at the end. No thanks. It's like, oh, thank you, this is the end of my presentation. Any questions? And then nobody puts up their hand, and then the teacher goes, oh yeah, I have about 5 questions, and each question has multiple parts about this obscure piece of knowledge that your talk only briefly touched on, and you weren't expected to research in depth. Remember, answering the questions is worth 1/3 of your grade for this assignment. This was my Vietnam. Marinette, shut up. Do the reading, do the writing. But anyway, Marinette stands up for Sabrina against Chloe, which prompts Sabrina to latch onto Marinette as her new BFF like a parasitic slug, claiming that they're going to have such a good time together. Big time stalker vibes from Sabrina in this episode, oh yeah. We then cut to the library where Sabrina's standing up for herself and looking to Marinette for support against Chloe. And I'll be real, Marinette is a backtracking coward in this scene. Oh, I never actually said that, Sabrina. Like, come on, bit more support, Marinette. Jesus. Anyway, at this point, we get a look at Evillustrator, who drops a bunch of berets on Chloe and then makes a big hairdryer chase her around. And so, Adrian transforms into Cat Noir behind a bookshelf. And is the whole transformation sequence, is that actually happening? Is he actually doing all those wacky poses behind the shelf? Same with Marinette. What the hell? Also, this library's double story. How can they be sure nobody's seen them transform? It's like Stormy Weather. They just transformed in public. Bit careless, I reckon. Anyway though, after Marinette goes full rodeo clown, Evillustrator hits them with the old Wile E. Coyote running into the invisible wall attack before running away. And so that means the heroes have to go and hang out with Chloe, because it seems like he's targeting her. And after a very awkward interaction between Ladybug and Chloe, where Chloe tries to act the part of innocent angel and Ladybug just straight up leaves, not giving a shit if she gets murdered by Evillustrator, and I kinda miss this version of Marinette, she's honestly quite funny. I think I too would abandon Chloe to her fate if I was in Marinette's shoes. But anyway, Marinette heads home and de-transforms, before Marinette checks her phone, and she sees she has like 50 missed calls from Sabrina, so yeah, Stalker City! And speaking of stalkers, at this point, Evillustrator busts into her room and gives her a romantic speech about how sweet and wonderful and perfect she is, which would be more heartwarming if he hadn't invaded her bedroom and wasn't a supervillain who could snap and hurt her at any time with nothing she can do about it. Anyway, he invites her to his birthday party, a solo birthday party, on the river at sunset, with music. Ooh, very romantic, very creepy too. And so the creeper leaves, and Marinette organises a sting operation where she will distract Evillustrator and Cat Noir will save the day and defeat him. Not a bad plan in all honesty. And while this is all going on, Chloe manages to rope Cat Noir into doing her physics homework for her. And I gotta say, I also miss this old school Chloe. Yeah, she's a bully, but she's also kind of witty and kind of funny too. She's way more three-dimensional than what we see from her later on. Man, I'm starting to feel like maybe season 1 is actually really underrated. Have I just forgotten how good it is? And on top of that, the whole format of this episode just feels so much more fresh. They don't just fight it out straight away and then keep fighting all episode. The villain's just wandering around doing his own thing and trying to romance Marinette. So unique. Cutting back to Marinette, we see her have an encounter with her second red-headed stalker, Sabrina, who quickly loses her temper and accuses her of being the same as Chloe. She seems stable. And this is followed up by Cat Noir arriving and turning on the charm. And it's cringe, but cringe in a funny way. And it's meant to be. And thus, Marichat was born. Honestly, I do see the appeal. Also, this scene especially, but basically every scene in this episode, and Stormy Weather, the mouth animation's so weird looking. Makes me very uncomfortable. Uncanny Valley. And then we finally return to the villain, who's setting up for his romantic birthday date with Marinette, when Hawkmoth berates him out of nowhere and threatens to take his powers away if he doesn't get the Miraculouses soon. And I gotta ask, has Hawkie just been standing in that room all day, waiting for Nathaniel to do something? Just alone in the butterfly room staring out the window? I gotta commend the effort, but Jesus Christ, it's been hours. What a life he is leading. But anyway, back to the romantic date. Nathaniel conveniently reveals to Marinette that he is unable to draw in the dark, and thus he gives her the secret to his defeat, before Cat Noir arrives, and instead of hitting him with the old sneak attack, he gets spotted and ruins the element of surprise. So, good thing Marinette's able to get his pencil back, which prompts a rant from Nathaniel that's worthy of r/nice guys, telling her that she's the same as Chloe, and that she's been leading him on. Yeah, sure, incel. Let's not forget that you are an unstable supervillain who pressured her into a date when you busted into her bedroom through the window. Anyway though, because our heroes are smooth-brained at this moment, he gets his pencil back, and he drops a glass box over the top of them and starts sinking the boat. So, he's intending to kill them. He wants them to drown. How very sweet of him. Good thing Cat Noir has super strength, and so he can just lift the box, right? Or push it off them. After all, it has no bottom. And since the glass isn't all that thick, if he hits the glass hard enough instead of just tapping it like he does in the episode, surely it would break, like a bus window when you hit it with those things that they have in case you need to escape. But then again, considering this glass box actually lands on concrete from a fair height and then bounces later on, maybe he couldn't have smashed it with his staff. But he could have hit it with a cataclysm and then de-transformed and retransformed later on, but nah. Apparently he's too stupid for that, and Marinette has to coach him through being a hero. Anyway, like I said in the first review for this season, I'm starting to think that Cat Noir has felt like an afterthought and a clear second place hero the entire time. This really doesn't feel like a new phenomenon anymore. Hell, Marinette actually has dialogue with Tiki directly after this scene, talking about how much of a muppet Cat Noir is and how he's going to need her help to beat the villain. Ouch. So anyway, Nathaniel attacks Chloe in her bedroom and starts a creepy game of cat and mouse as he searches for her. Incel indeed. And then he tries to kill her with a giant shoe before the heroes step in and save her. Trying to take advantage of that whole can't draw in the dark thing, Ladybug tells Cat Noir to turn off the light, and he decides that cataclysming the whole switch is the easier way to do it than just, I don't know, flicking it and turning it off perhaps? Why waste your special move? Also, wouldn't it have just been easier to hit the switch with the yo-yo? And quicker too? Ugh, oh well. Anyway, long story short, she Lucky Charms and she beats him with a bouncy ball by bouncing it and smashing all the light bulbs in the room with one throw. Sure, okay. They win. Cat Noir does nothing. The end. Oh, and Sabrina completely reverts to being Chloe's sycophant, but good riddance to bad trash, I say. Nobody needs these weirdo stalkers in their life. Oh, and Gabe is pissed as well, and honestly I would be too, because this guy did nothing but waste his time and then lose like a fool. Ugh, idiot! Also, he says he wants to rule the world in this episode. That feels a little bit out of character. And so then we finish off the episode with some premium Adrianette cringe, which is followed by Tiki questioning her life choices that led her to being bound to serve Marinette. Poor Tiki. It's a big come down from Joan of Arc. Also, Nath Comics better watch out for a lawsuit from Marvel Comics, because that new cover art feels very familiar to me. And also, poor Cat Noir. Imagine getting done so dirty that you can't even make it into your friend's comic book when you're one of two heroes. Two! But anyway, that's the end of the episode, and the end of the review. And like last time, I was very pleasantly surprised by how good this was. But that means I'd better pass it to you. How about you watch the episode and then tell me, what do you think? Do you like it, hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.